Cut City Connect, Cut City Connect, Cut City Connect. Yeah. Houston rockin' news, everything you need. You know we keep it in check. Scores, interviews, and player stats. Yo, we keep it in check. Subscribe to see what's next. It's Cut City Connect.
Alrighty, what is the deal, YouTube? It's your boy Tyler A.
And your boy AP, Aaron Patterson, baby.
And we want to welcome you guys to another episode of Clutch City Connect. And on this episode today, we have our special guest, Mr. Jeremy Branham. And first things first, we want to say thank you so much for coming along. My main man, you have the floor. Let them know who you are and where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I do a lot of things, man. I work too hard. I think that's what my wife tells me. I work too hard. I have a show on ESPN 97.5, Killer Bees. Also do play-by-play for University of Houston basketball, number 3 team in the country, by the way. Those are the things that keep me busy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sweet. All right, my man. So I want to ask you, speaking of Houston Cougars, kind of segue off of that, what are your thoughts on the basketball team so far? And also, we do know a certain team did clinch the division today. What are your thoughts on those two teams, my man?
I'll start with U of H. I think they're good. I think they're really good. They're the only undefeated team left in the country. On Saturday, we played West Virginia, which was our first Big 12 game. Won that game, but Houston entered that day with 3 undefeated teams in the country. Houston was 1, James Madison was 1, and Ole Miss was 1, and they both lost. Ole Miss and James Madison lost, so Houston's the only team, the undefeated remaining in the country. So that's pretty exciting. But they're rolling. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, for my money, like I haven't seen every coach in the country, but Kelvin Sampson is unbelievable. That guy, look where Houston was at before Kelvin Sampson got here, and now look where Houston's at. I mean, they were a dormant program that, I mean, there was more rats going to games at Old Hofheinz Pavilion than there were fans. It was, and I was one of those fans. So it wasn't pretty. But he's completely revitalized the program. It went from that to now being one of the best programs in the entire country. So it's a lot of fun. They're really good defensively. You know, statistically, they're the best defense in the country. If you look at the analytics, they're the best defense in the country. You know, they have some depth. Jamal Shedd, senior point guard, kind of their guy, kind of their do-it-all guy. He's fun to watch. There's a fun team. You know, they brought in LJ Cryer, Houston kid, Baylor transfer, who is a walking bucket. He had 20 in the opener against West Virginia, can shoot the lights out of it. I'm amazed with how quick he is. Like, I knew that he could score, and I knew he could shoot, and I've seen him enough on TV to know, but I'm amazed how quick he is. He's fast. He's not the biggest guard, so it's like, well, can he shoot over these guys? Well, he's quick, so he can get to his spots and get his shots up. So it's fun to watch him. They're a lot of fun to watch. I have a blast calling the games. I'm lucky, very lucky to be able to call a program that's so program period, but especially a team that's so good. Houston, the Texans, on the other hand, that's what a story, right? I mean, you go from winning 11 games in 3 years. You had David Culley and Lovie Smith, and it's like, oh man, you had Jack Easterby there. Like, it was awful. Like, and I think about this a lot too. And like, this is another blessing. Like, we're talking sports every day in the city of Houston. Obviously, it's kind of a pro town, if we're being honest, and we're in Texas, so football's king, if we're being honest. So having to work in sports radio for 3 years of winning 11 games and really being the laughingstock of the NFL was hard. It was a grind. It was rough. We were talking NFL draft by like week 8. And it's like, man, I'm tired of watching all of these college quarterbacks instead of actually watching the Texans. I was watching more, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis than I was watching Davis Mills. So it was weird. So the fact that they're good again is awesome. It makes our jobs in sports radio so much easier. It's fun. I'm a native Houstonian. Like, the Texans are the teams that I would be pulling for anyways, even if I wasn't working in Houston sports radio. So it's great to see them win. I love it for D'Amico. Like, D'Amico's so wholesome. I sent out a tweet yesterday. Like, you can tell he cares. And being a native Houstonian, I don't know y'all's backgrounds. I don't know if y'all been in Houston forever, but being a native Houstonian, like, the one thing that I I get drawn to as a fan is if I know that you care while you represent my city, because I'm prideful to Houston, very prideful to Houston. And if I know that you're repping Houston and you care, you show that passion, you show that emotion, that's something that I'm immediately going to be a fan. And CJ Stroud's the same way. And that's the other part of it. Like, what do you need in the NFL to be a contender? You need a good coach and you need a really good quarterback. And Texans have that. And it looks like they had that for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, it's a great time to be a Texans fan, and you kind of pinch yourself because this time last year you won 3 games. You won 11 games in 3 years, and now 365 days later you're in this spot. Like it's really unbelievable. I can't believe it if I'm being honest.
Really, really, really phenomenal showing from the Texans. And granted, me as a Texans fan, I'm from I don't know if you heard of a town called Texas City, close to Dallas.
Sure. Of course, Stingeries.
Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
I am from that area, Texas City, Lamarck area. So, me being a Texans fan for a majority of my life, the 29 years I've been here on Earth, man, and even though, they're a young team, it started with the Oilers and then it transitioned to Texans, man. It was good, and it was a breath of fresh air to be able to see the Texans actually win and have someone that not only cares but knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And granted, yes, I was a little upset about some of the gimme games that we lost, but I have to remember at the NFL level, it's any given Sunday. The best team can always lose to the worst team in the NFL. So it's not necessarily a gimme game that you're giving up, but it's necessarily you have to go out there and do the little thing that's going to get you to win. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the Texans did against the Colts. Not only to get in the playoffs, but just to have a showing that they're about something different, and they're giving the city of Houston something different that's been missing for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And as far as the Houston Cougars, man, let me tell you, I'm going back to school. Once I finish up my associates, I'm enrolling into U of H. I love U of H, man. I remember back in 2008, I was able to go to a U of H basketball camp where Tommy Penders was the coach at that time. And crazy enough, I'm really cool with his son, who's the coach at Clear Lake High School.
Oh, okay.
So, man, that Tommy Penders was awesome. He was an amazing coach, and he gave me a lot of insight at that camp that he didn't have to tell me. But I've always been a U of H fan through and through, man, and I'm going to enroll there, finish up my degree, become a teacher and coach as well. So that's just how much love I have for the Houston Cougars, man. I've been following them, and I love what I'm seeing. Unfortunately, we don't have our Galveston County kid there anymore, but Kelvin Sampson truly has shown that he's gonna bring kids here that wants to win, that's gonna do little stuff, that's gonna play defense, be defensive minded first and offensive minded second, and do what needs to be done to get the win. Mm-hmm. So, all right, Mr. Branham. So I want to ask you, my man. Let's get into the Houston Rockets, right? So, what were your expectations of the Rockets at the beginning of the season, and what are your thoughts on the Rockets right now?
So the beginning of the season, I probably was a little bit more optimistic than most because, like, I'm a big believer in good coaching. Like, I think if you have good coaching, you can turn it around quickly. Like, D'Amico is an example there. Kelvin's an example there. So I'm a big believer in that. And I wasn't very high on Steven Silas. I thought that he was kind of I don't want to say a problem. Problem's too strong of a word, but he kind of got in the way of winning, if that makes any sense. And I think that he heard some of the development of the young guys too. Which I'm sure we'll talk about, some of the young guys as well. So because I knew that they made such a huge upgrade in coaching, because Ime Udoka was if I was making the coaching decision, the hire, he would have been the guy. I mean, went to the NBA Finals in year one. Was that?
You did predict that on your that episode too. I remember watching that.
Did I? I was bullish for Ime. Like, I wanted Ime so bad. The tutelage that he's had with Pop, of course. I didn't realize it. The Kelvin Sampson show, we did it this other day, and we were just talking during the breaks, and I remember I looked up to see if they had stints together as on the same coaching staff. They didn't, but Ime was actually a player whenever Kelvin was an assistant under Pop at San Antonio. And I was like, it makes so much sense because he has a lot of the same principles that you do. So I was bullish on that. You know, the Dylan Brooks stuff, like, is it too much money? You know, maybe, but they had money to spend and you needed veterans. Was Fred VanVleet too much money? Maybe, but you had money to spend and you needed veterans, and I think it helps the young guys as well. So, you know, I'm not going to say I predicted Alpi Şengün to have the season that he's having, but I expect him to be solid. I expect Jalen Green to be solid. I expect Jabari to be solid. So I'm looking at the starting five. I'm like, this isn't bad. Like, you got Van Vliet, you got Jalen, you got Dylan Brooks, you got Jabari, you got Alpi. Like, this got the makings of a team that can fight for a play-in spot. Like, I think you can compete for a top 10 team in the Western Conference. So those were my expectations. Those are my expectations at the start. Maybe lofty, maybe a little bit more optimistic than most, but I thought they would be in the mix there. And my feelings really haven't changed a whole lot. Like, I still feel like that's where they should be aiming to be. And I think it's successful if they do. Now, I'd kind of like to see some of the younger players get more run, get some more minutes. And I think we will see that. We're starting to see Cam Whitmore play more, which, like, I want to see more of him. I want to Men Thompson. It stinks that Men got hurt. Like, you know, where would a Men be if he didn't get that injury and miss a few weeks? I think he'd be playing more minutes right now. So he's still kind of, you know, coming back from that a little bit. And they got sick, like, right when he came back. So eventually, I'm not saying right now, but eventually I do want to see more Whitmore, more Thompson minutes. So just to see what you got with the young guys.
Okay, so speaking of the young guys, I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of what's been going on Twitter lately, but what do you think about a lot of Rockets fans wanting to get rid of Jalen Green?
Yeah. I'm probably pro Jalen Green more than most. There's a few things that, you know, now I got my soapbox here a little bit. We live in, like, a society nowadays where you have to be either one side or the other. Like, you either have it's binary, right? Like, it's yes, it's no, it's left, it's right, it's white, it's black. Like, you have to be one side or the other. Where I don't look at things that way. Like, to me, I look at things as like a sliding scale. You got, you know, point A over here, point B over here, and you can be somewhere in the middle. Now, I don't believe in soft stances, but you can have a middling opinion on a Jalen Green. Like, I don't love Jalen Green's body language at times. And I think it has a little bit to do with confidence. And, like, when he's not playing well and he starts to mope a little bit, I don't think it's because he's a bad teammate. I think it's because he's so disappointed with himself. So, like, I don't want to see that body language. Like, you know, have the confidence that you're going to make the next shot. You know, have the confidence that you might be lousy tonight, but you're going to be great tomorrow. But I think that's part of being young. Like, we forget how young Jalen Green is. We forget that he's a 20-point scorer in his second year in the league. So I'm pro Jalen Green more than most. There's some, you know, areas of the game I'd like him to clean up. It'd be great if he could be a more consistent shooter. I don't think that he shoots at a consistent enough level to be a guy that you can count on to score every single night. But when he's going well, he looks like an all-star. I mean, he's knocking down threes. Like, okay, this guy could be an all-star. I can't remember the game where it was, but it was the game where Fred VanVleet was hurt and he was playing with the ball in his hands a lot. I think he ended up with like 9 assists, and it's like, okay, this guy looks like an all-star. So, like, we lose sight in the Jalen Green's in his third year. And what is he? He's 21 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He scored 20 points a game as he was 20, like when he was 20 years old last year. I haven't looked at the updated stats in the last 2 games, but I remember I looked it up last week, and we knocked Jalen Green shooting, right? Like, not you and I, but in general. He's shooting his best 3-point percentage in his career. So it's like he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to figure it out. There's areas that he has to develop. He has to get better. I also think that the Rockets' ceiling is kind of attached to Jalen Green, because if you're trading Jalen Green, you get back. You might get a player who's better right now, but you're not getting a player back that has the potential of Jalen Green. So if the Rockets are ever like a championship team, I think it's kind of attached to the potential of Jalen Green.
Absolutely. And one thing that I had a conversation with Aaron about, you don't want to give up on somebody at his age and somebody that could be as good now, trade him and then regret it.
Yeah.
I have seen people throw out trading Jalen Green for Eric Gordon, trading Jalen Green for Jordan Clarkson, trading Jalen Green for a basket of Wingstop with a side of French fries.
Now, it might depend on the flavor there, though.
Hey, if it's barbecue, I'm in.
I like the
But-
Louisiana rub myself.
That's
Louisiana rub's pretty good.
dude. Oh my goodness.
Can we trade land
I
up?
don't have to be hungry, man.
Yeah. We could, but Wingstop wouldn't.
No, definitely wouldn't. And actually, we missed our little deal with the Pistons winning the other night. We could have got. Oh, did that only work in Detroit? Anyway.
That's only in Detroit, man.
Did y'all try it?
Oh man, see. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, man, I'm solely pro Jalen Green. I think a lot of people, their expectations are high because they see Anthony Edwards, they see a lot of kids, even in his class, including Alperen Şengün, that are thriving, and it seems like to some maybe Jalen, like Jalen has plateaued, but I'm like, he's only 21, and even John Lucas came out, who's in the front office role now, stated it's probably not going to be this season, it's probably going to be next season. So I say give him a year under Ime, give him time to develop under a new system, under a coach that's going to get them where they need to be. And then you come back to this conversation next year where you can actually see that he's had a full year of Ime Udoka. That way we can truly assess where he is, where he should be, and maybe then we can have that conversation. But I just think it's too early.
See, I actually I want 2 years because I want him to have a full off season of like, okay, this is what Ime's like. This is how he's going to handle practices. These are the things that he's looking for in my game. Like, give me an off season of him training there, and let's see what his work ethic's like. Let's see how much he can improve with the tutelage. And maybe it's a year and a half. Maybe if he's lousy started next year, or maybe he's still showing some promise, but it's not what Ime's looking for. Then it's like, okay, maybe deadline next year. But give me the off season and then into the next season. It's interesting. Like a couple of things that popped into my mind when you're thinking that. Like we talk about the age of Jalen Green. Like Jermaine O'Neal was still a bench guy that was barely playing.
Yes,
he turned into like a multi-time All-Star. Like that's the one guy I always point to because Jermaine O'Neal straight out of high school. I know that, but still, like his first 4 years, he hardly played. And then all of a sudden he plays and he turns into, one of the better post scorers in the whole league. And I know it's different positions. But one other funny thing is I think it's like what hurts Jalen Green too is the fact that we know he can play well. We know that what he's capable of because Jalen's 21, Amin Thompson's 20, and Jalen Green's like, I know he plays more, but his volume numbers are far better than Amin Thompson. But why is the fan base higher on Amin than Jalen? It's because like Amin's all potential. We haven't seen really any of it yet, no fault of his own. Whereas Jalen, we've seen him play 35 minutes a night and score 20 points a game. So we're like, oh, he should be at 25 now. He should be an all-star now. He's 1 year older than Amin Thompson. So it's weird. It's a weird way to look at it. I think that he's kind of a victim of his own promise, if that makes any sense.
And it's unfortunate, especially, and this is another talking point too, that a lot of people want Cam Whitmore to replace him. I'm like, I don't think that's the vision that the Rockets have. I think the Rockets want Jalen playing next to Cam eventually. I don't think it's a situation where they want Cam taking Jalen's spot. And especially with the frame and skill set that Cam has, I would prefer to have him as small forward than shooting guard. That's just me. I think that's more ideal.
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about like the idea of like, how they envision Whitmore in the starting five. I agree to the point that they don't envision Whitmore taking over for Jalen Green. Like, in a perfect world, Jalen Green turns into a consistent player that's an all-star that scores 23, 25 points a game and is easily their best perimeter scorer. I like the idea. Like I like Cam Whitmore's game. Like I'm not envisioning him as a starter yet. Like I want him to play more minutes than Jayshawn Tate. Like that's where I'm at with him. Now, I think he will be a starter at some point. I haven't let that really like enter my mind yet because he seems like he's just so far away from it right now. You know what I mean? Because he's getting less minutes than Tate. Like so maybe it's just like one step at a time where my mind's at. But in a perfect world, Cam Whitmore is outstanding too. And you have two really good dynamic perimeter scorers because that would be really good to surround that, around Alpy.
Put that around Alpy. Put a good, solid, especially after Van Vliet's contract runs out. Amin Thompson develops. You have Jalen. You have Cam, you have Jabari, who's been playing phenomenal this
Mhm.
season.
Yeah.
You add Atari Easton,
You're loaded for a while.
you're loaded for a good while.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think a lot of Rockets fans are jumping the gun a little too quick. And this is why I've been kind of pressing, hey guys, just give it time. He's 21, he's in a new system. Let him grow. Just let him play. Put him out there. You know, Ime is doing his due diligence though. To win games, he has been benching Jalen, and it's been unfortunate to see. But same token, I think this is putting it in his head, hey, if I don't do this or if I don't do that, I'm going to be sitting next to the coach. And a lot of times you need that for players.
See, I think he's definitely prioritizing winning. I agree with that. I don't have any pushback on that at all. Now, from my point of view, I think I rather prioritize development than winning. And I know that sounds crazy, but I just don't think that the Rockets' ceiling this year is higher than first round playoff. Like I think that's their ceiling. I think their ceiling's first round playoffs. So I personally would trade the first round playoff exit for a play-in exit if it meant that I played my younger players more and I got more out of them in the future. But where I agree with you is I think him benching Jalen's part of the development process too, because the greatest motivator is the bench. Like these competitors don't want to sit. These competitors don't want to sit during crunch time. So I think big picture, it actually is part of the development. Now he is prioritizing winning, no argument at all. But I do think in the back of his mind, he's like, this isn't the best interest of long-term Jalen Green too.
Absolutely. All right, my man. So I want to ask you, what are your expectations for the Rockets at the NBA trade deadline? I apologize. And
We're almost
also,
there, fellas.
Yeah, what is it? About a month and a week, 5 weeks or so? It's around Valentine's Day, right?
Oh yeah, it's gonna get here soon. So I want to ask you, like I say, what are your expectations for the Rockets at the trade deadline, and what type of moves would you like to see the Rockets make?
I don't think it's going to be significant. In fact, I kind of want them to strip a couple of pieces off of their team. You mentioned Jock Landale a little bit earlier, kind of, with the Wingstop trade. Now I don't know how much. I don't think the Jock really has any trade value, but his contract's actually tradable. And it's also you can get out of it because the final 3 years of the 4-year deal are non-guaranteed. So like I've seen Rafael Stone kind of get crushed for that signing, and it's like he was just signing a backup big man, and he really gave him a 1-year deal. Like it's a 1-year prove-it deal, quite frankly. Like it says 4 years on the terms, but all the final 3 are non-guaranteed. So I could see them upgrading the backup center position. I think that they could use a rim protector on this team. I think they wanted Landale to be that guy that can, shoot the three maybe a little bit too, but it just really hadn't worked out for whatever reason. I think Landale's talented. I think he's capable of playing that role. He just hadn't shown it. And there's no way they're going to bring him back on that deal. So if you can upgrade that backup center spot, I think it would make some sense. Rim protector, play some defense. I even think that Ime would, we see Ime do the offense for defense stuff late in games, or even Şengün will be on the bench on like an important defensive possession. So I could see just like a standout defensive center that Ime would want. And then other than that, I'd kind of like to trade some pieces. Like I mentioned Tate. Like how do you get Whitmore more minutes than Tate? Trade Tate. Get him off the team. And his contract too, like if you could get him off the books, that would help you out a little bit financially as well. So I don't think anything major. Like to me, it's those two things are what I'm looking for. I would really enjoy an upgraded backup center and then a way to give Whitmore more minutes. And I think the way to do that's by trading Tate at the deadline.
Absolutely, maximizing on the player that you have. Landale, definitely. Jason Tate. I know a lot of Rockets fans are not gonna like that, but there's actually been a couple of Rockets fans that say, "Hey, we need to ship him off somewhere." Another player I think that could carry a little bit of interest that's sitting on the bench and not really doing too much of anything is Reggie Bullock. And remember, he was brought in to be a scorer and especially a 3-and-D guy, and he has not gotten any time at all. I mean, if you do see him to spot up minutes. I think I know when me and Aaron went to the Rockets game against the Thunder, he was in the game for what, maybe 2 minutes, and then he sat back down on the bench.
3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he was brought in to be a scorer. To whenever he touches the ball, let it fly, and he hasn't got a lot of time. So I think it would do wonders for the Rockets to look into maybe packaging up those three and seeing what you can get, or even if you have to sell them off in separate deals, even if it's just to open up a roster spot. Maybe if you're contending as far as for a playoff spot, you can hit the wave wire, see what's in there, what's cooking. Ime Udoka has a presence, so a lot of players are going to want to come here and play. They see that we have a lot of young talent that's developing, that's going to be good, it's going to get better. So I think that presents a very beneficial situation for free agents, potential free agents, especially on the wave wire.
Yeah.
So
the buyout market,
Oh, the buyout market. I apologize.
Well, both. I mean, where the buyout market where those veterans are on losing teams, like, hey, get me out of here. I'll take 90% of my contract. Okay, yeah, we'll save 10% of your deal. The only thing that I would wonder is, and to your point about Bullock, it's like back to backs, or when there's players that are hurt. Like those are the only times you get minutes. Like you have 2 days off and you're fully healthy, he ain't playing. So it's usually back to backs or guys are hurt or whatever. I just don't know how much trade value any of those guys have. Like, Jock and Tate and Bullock. Like, I don't know if that gives you, the return that you want. And yeah, that's interesting too, is the Oladipo part of it, because his contract's large. Like it's large enough where you could bring in like a significant piece if somebody else was trying to shed a contract. So they have options. They have options. I don't really see them making some splashes, because I think that they like their young core and their young rotation, and they kind of want to groom and develop that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. Aaron Holiday too. I wouldn't want him, but he would give some good value in there also. See,
when they signed Holiday, I was like, well, he's just your third string point guard. He's just in case of emergency, kind of an insurance guy. He kind of proved me wrong. Like he's better than that. Like he's a rotational piece, right? Like I think he's a rotational piece on an above 500 team. He's a good enough shooter. Like when you can shoot like that, good teams will find a spot for you. So he's been better. I knew he was a good shooter, but his overall game has impressed me. It's been better than I thought it would be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Only thing that kind of gets me about Holiday, in all honesty, is a little bit of the tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit. It's not like, I hate to put him out there, but it's not like Josh Christopher. But hey, once Josh Christopher got the ball, I don't know if any other player was touching it. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It doesn't sound like you hate putting them out there, though. You say you hate putting them out there. It didn't sound like it.
Oh, man.
My boy,
I'm a big Josh Christopher guy, man. I like Josh Christopher.
Yeah, he was a black hole, though, wasn't he? Like, he hit the ball. It was over. He was shooting it. He got the ball. It was Coach Sampson. He always has a let me try to remember this exactly right. Oh, he would talk about how they have a give and go offense. We give it to him and everybody else can go to hell. That was Josh Christopher. That was Josh Christopher.
Yeah, man, JC, and I liked him. I thought he could have been something here, but a lot of those players that the Rockets have selected, they're in the G League and aren't seeing any time at all at the NBA level. So I think Raphael Stone knew what he was doing when he sold off a lot of those pieces.
That was kind of an interesting. That was an interesting, couple of days, right? Everybody was talking about asset management. No, this is a terrible usage of asset management. I just remember, these guys aren't good. Like, what do you mean? Like this isn't, to me, a problem of asset management. This is to me, of poor drafting. Like you drafted poorly, and now they're cutting ties on guys they realize aren't NBA players.
Right.
I mean, I get you're trading late first and all this stuff, like just giving them away, but I thought it was more of a tell of you missed on some guys late in the draft than good asset management type stuff.
Yeah, gotta give him praise though, because man, Tari Eason, that was a steal. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he played at Cincinnati before he played at LSU, so I got to see him a couple times up close and personal. And I remember looking at the a bunch of draft mocks or mock drafts and stuff before the draft, and he was kind of being projected around where the Rockets were picking. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say 14, but I could be off there. And I was like, man, Tari Eason would be perfect. Like he might not ever be, which I think I'm wrong on this now. Actually, I was like, he might not ever be a starter, but that guy is a glue guy and a rotational player on a playoff caliber team. He's going to give you unbelievable defense. He's going to knock down a 3-point shot. He's going to be able to rebound, do a bunch of the junkyard dog stuff. He's actually been better getting to the basket than I thought he would be. Like, I thought he was going to kind of be a 3-and-D guy, and then like garbage points, offensive rebounds, putback, stuff like that. He's got more offensive game than I thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the crazy thing about it is, so we actually had a guy on here, our main man, LeBrent Walker, who kind of was a coach over there at LSU and got to know Tari Eason personally. And he said that, Tari's going to go out there and get it, but he is goofy. So I think we kind of seen that with what he did with Cody Davis. I don't know if you saw the video, but he was kind of putting the camera like he was recording. Yeah. So that's just, I love this team, man. I love the makeup of this team. Like you said, Tari is one of those glue guys. He doesn't have to start to produce, and he can come off the bench. But if he does start, which I haven't seen that yet, but if he does start, he gives it his all. He gives 110%, and that's something that you cannot ask more of from a player. He is a coach's perfect player as far as someone that's just going to go out there and just go get it. Just go do it. Like, hey, I need you to go lock up Cade Cunningham. That steal that he had on Cade, it was like a bully steal. Like, hey, just give it to me, gosh darn it. And I'm going to go dunk this ball. So you know what you're getting out of Tari. And so, I think in that regard, I got to give Raphael Stone some credit, man. He picked one great player in the middle of the draft in that draft year.
Not even his best one. I mean, in that draft it was, but it's not even his best mid-first round pick.
Absolutely. And you can't, and a lot of people, I don't know how a lot of people feel about that, but I think him taking KJ Martin in the second round, I mean, KJ Martin, he's not that versatile as far as ball skills and stuff like that, but man, I think he has outperformed a lot of players that was in his draft in the first round.
He's got some bounce. I love his pops. He's not really getting much run in Philly. I don't even know how he got to Philly, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought he was with the Clippers, and the other day I saw him with Philly. I'm like, what? Well, how did he go from the Clippers?
He was part of that James Harden trade.
Oh, he was part of the Harden trade? I didn't even know that. I didn't know he was a pro into that trade. I was like, how did he end up in Philly? Like, he traded him to the Clippers. I had no clue.
Well,
that makes sense.
Unfortunately, as far as with his dad, I think his dad just.
Yeah. See, I think it's a shot, too. Like, I don't know if he can shoot well enough to be like to me, he's the perfect 3-and-D guy if he could shoot the three, because he's athletic enough to defend. He's got incredible bounce. Like, he can slash to the rim and just dunk on you. I just don't think he's a good enough shooter. And I think that's the difference between him being like a fringe NBA deep at the bench guy versus being a rotational guy. I think it's that simple. I think if he shot 38% from three, he'd be in the rotation of every team in the NBA.
Absolutely. So, my main man, we got one more question for you.
All right. The way you set that up makes me a little nervous.
So I wanted to ask you, so as far as with the Rockets, like I say, we've seen them. They're looking way better than what they did with under Steven Silas. What are your expectations for them to finish out the year? Do you expect play-in? Do you expect playoffs? Do you expect us to be on the outside looking in?
It's interesting because you kind of have some of the teams below you that you would expect to be above them. Like Golden State, you would expect to be above the Rockets. The Lakers, you would expect to be above the Rockets. The Grizzlies have had a weird year because of Ja. Like, they're a different team now, clearly, with Ja. So, like, you would expect them to finish above the Rockets. And right now, the Rockets are in ninth. So, two of those teams jump them, then you're looking on the outside, of the play-in. My expectations are playing. Like, I think it's a good thing to aim for a young team. Like, if they fall short of that and finish 11th, do I think it was like this disastrous season? Absolutely not. Like, it's the year one of Ime. You're seeing some great development and some great things, and I think that the arrow's pointing up. So, like, if they fall short of that, it's not going to be something that upsets me. It's kind of like we were talking about the Texans earlier. If the Texans lost to the Colts yesterday, okay, like, I want them to be in the playoffs. It would stink, but what a year. Like, what a great first year under D'Amico and CJ. So I think there's a lot of similarities with the Rockets. If they fall short of being in the top 10, whatever. Like, I'm still bullish on their future, whether they're 10th or 11th. So it's kind of my stance with them. Like I feel like it's a good thing to aspire for. I think getting into the play-in is great for a young team too. Like you go look at these teams that have playoff success and good playoff history and that eventually win championships. They usually have playoff failures along the way prior to all of that. So start getting those playoff failures, even if you lose in a play-in game, get a playoff failure. Know what that feels like. Go into an offseason losing a play-in game that could have got you to the postseason. I think that stuff is good. I think it's very valuable. So I want them badly to finish in the top 10. I think it's in play. I really do. So those are my expectations. That's what I think. But I think at the end of the year, even if they fall short, I think kind of unanimously across, Houston Rockets fandom, people are going to feel some kind of ways about certain players. But I think we're all going to feel good about year one of Ime Udoka, barring something just unforeseen, in the second half-ish of the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aaron, you got any thoughts, my man?
I agree with him. The same thing. Like, I mean, if they don't make the play-in, I mean, they had a successful season. I mean, even look what they did in the play-in tournament. And they beat the Nuggets 3 times this season, the defending NBA champions, So that's a big accomplishment this year.
Absolutely. And
sure they belong, like last year, like they would lace it up with some of these teams. It's like they don't belong. Like they're not in the same class. They're like, this is a different weight class. This year's not the case. Like they step on the floor, they beat Milwaukee, like you mentioned Denver 3, like they step on the floor with these teams, like they belong. They might not win every night, but they belong. So that's refreshing after where they've been these last couple of years.
You actually seeing something that's actually competitive and competent on the floor, and not just looking or organized and there's a name on this show that we don't typically bring up, but a specific person isn't on the team anymore, so that toxic vibe is gone. You can just tell there's a lot more smiles, there's a lot more as you can say camaraderie amongst all of them. You can kind of see that it's different. Even being at the game, it was much more different atmosphere than the last 3 years. I went to the Rockets game against the Knicks on New Year's 2 years ago. I want to say not last year, but the year before that. And man, like I went with my friend and my girlfriend and my cousin, and they looked pitiful. They looked absolutely pitiful, and like that was around the time we were like, oh, Ty Washington's gonna be the answer at backup point guard, and oh man, that specific guy, just give him some more time, and he's gonna be all right. And I think everything has happened for a reason for us to get to where we are now. And I gotta say that I love the product that we have on the court right now. As it is producing, we have a lot of young kids that are doing their thing. We have journeymen on the team that are like showing out as far as like with Aaron Holiday. I don't think Aaron Holiday had a chance when he was with the Hawks because he was playing behind Trae Young, and Trae Young is going to play majority of the game.
Yeah.
And then they had DeJounte Murray, so it's like you could have both of them on the court at the same time, and you could have them come in and out. You could have either DeJounte out there without Trae being out there, and vice versa. So, we're actually getting a really good look at Aaron Holiday. So I think, they did their due diligence in free agency this year.
Yeah, I've been called crazy about, how good I feel about this organization. Like I think they have a championship nucleus. Like I know that sounds crazy. Now they have a long way to go. Like their potential, I believe with the potential they have of their young guys like Alpi, Jalen, Jabari, even Amin, like who haven't seen a whole lot. Like that to me, if they all hit their potential, and like most of the time players don't hit their potential, but if they were to all hit their potential, like you got franchise point guard, you got a franchise shooting guard that would be your best perimeter scorer. I like Jabari's game a lot in the sense that he's rare. I looked it up a couple weeks ago. Like guys that are averaging, X amount of rebounds and then where they're shooting in the league. And his skill set's unique because he can give you 10 rebounds a game and shoot, nearly 40% from 3. Like that's unique and defend. And then what Alpi's doing too, like, if all those guys can hit their potential, which is a long shot, like that's a long shot for all of them to hit their potential. But if they do, like that's a really good core 4.
Right.
Absolutely. And then it's crazy because everything's gonna start with Şengün, man. It's just gonna trickle down from him. You know, I think him making the All-Star team this year is gonna be very important for the Rockets. That gives the Rockets a good sign of hope that everything is gonna be okay, everything's gonna be all right. And I think once Jalen Green gets there, it's gonna give the fan base a little inhale and exhale. You know, it's gonna let everyone know that, hey, we're gonna be fine, we're gonna be okay. As long as we stay the course, ride the ship out through the storm, that everything's gonna be fine. Mm-hmm. So I gotta say, I love the way this team has been put together. So, my main man Aaron, you got any closing thoughts?
Man, let's see what the rest of 2024 is. Let's see what the rest of the season is gonna look like.
We told everyone, Mr. Branham, that we were taking over 2024, and it starts with you, my man. We want to appreciate you so much for coming on the show.
Man, if you're taking over 2024, you should have started with a better guest.
Oh, man. Can't start with a better if we already got the best on here.
Come on now.
Come on, man.
I appreciate y'all saying that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And you guys make sure you check out my main man, Jeremy Branham, on 37.5.
97.5, close enough.
97.5. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. On 97.5 Houston via ESPN. All right. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in once again to another episode of Clutch City Connect. It's your guy, TJ Anderson.
And your boy, AP, Aaron Patterson.
And we want to thank you guys so much.
Took 2 shots to the brain, yeah. Then I put